A struggling cashier gave her last $10 to a stranded stranger, not knowing he was a millionaire. Maya Wynn counted the crumpled bills in her wallet one more time as she hurried through Union Station, hoping somehow the math would change to $10. That was all that stood between her and complete financial disaster until her next paycheck in 3 days. At 28, Maya had become an expert at impossible calculations. After her 40-hour week as a cashier at Save Mart Grocery, every dollar of her paycheck was already spoken for. Rent, utilities, groceries, and the crushing monthly payment to Chicago General Hospital for her mother's cancer treatment. Even with the generous payment plan the hospital had offered, the interest and late fees kept piling up faster than she could pay them down. Her phone buzzed with yet another automated call from the collections department. Maya let it go to voicemail. She knew exactly what they'd say. Despite making payments faithfully for 8 months, she somehow owed more now than when her mother's treatment had ended. The high-interest payment plan and various fees had turned a $15,000 medical bill into something that felt insurmountable. The $10 bill in her hand was supposed to buy gas to get to work tomorrow. Without it, she'd have to walk the 4 miles each way, which meant getting up at 5 a.m. and arriving home after midnight. But she'd done worse things to make ends meet. As Maya approached the departure boards to figure out which train would get her home cheapest, she noticed an elderly man frantically searching through his belongings near the ticket counter. His briefcase lay open, papers scattered around his feet, and his face was creased with worry. "Excuse me," the man called out to a passing security guard. "I seem to have lost my wallet. I need to catch the 7:15 to Milwaukee for a family emergency, but I can't find my money anywhere." The security guard shrugged. "Sorry, sir. You'll need to contact someone to wire you money or use a credit card at the machine." "That's just it," the man said, his voice strained. "My phone is dead and my credit cards were in my wallet. I just need enough for a ticket. $35. My daughter is in the hospital." Maya watched as commuters hurried past the distressed stranger. She recognized the panic in his voice, the helpless desperation. It was the same tone she'd heard in her own mother's voice during those terrifying weeks of treatment, when they weren't sure if insurance would cover the next procedure or if they'd have to choose between rent and medicine. Without overthinking it, Maya approached the man. "Excuse me, sir?" "I overheard. What happened?" The man looked up, his eyes red with frustration. "I was getting coffee and my wallet just disappeared. Could have been pickpocketed. My daughter had emergency surgery in Milwaukee and visiting hours end at 9. I have to get there tonight." Maya's heart clenched. She pulled out her wallet and stared at the single $10 bill, her gas money, her margin between making it to work and losing her job. "How much do you need?" she asked quietly. $35 for the ticket," he said, "but I couldn't ask a stranger to—" "I only have $10, Maya interrupted, holding out the bill with steady hands. "It's not enough for the full ticket, but maybe it'll help." The man stared at the money, then at Maya's worn Save Mart uniform and tired face. "Miss, I can't take your money. You look like you're working hard for every dollar." "Your daughter needs you there tonight," Maya said firmly, pressing the bill into his palm. $10 won't solve your problem, but maybe it'll get others to help too." Before he could protest, Maya raised her voice to the small crowd nearby. "Excuse me, everyone. This gentleman's daughter just had emergency surgery in Milwaukee. He lost his wallet and needs $25 more to catch the last train. Can anyone help him get to his family?" Something about Maya's obvious sacrifice, a grocery store worker giving away what was clearly her last money, seemed to move the crowd. A businessman immediately pulled out a 20. A college student contributed $5. A mother with young children handed over a $10 bill. Within minutes, they had collected not just enough for the ticket, but extra for food and a cab. The elderly man's eyes filled with tears as he clutched the money. "I don't know how to thank you all," he said, his voice breaking. "Especially you, miss. You started this when you clearly needed that money yourself." "Just get to your daughter," Maya said softly. "Give her a hug from all of us." As the man hurried toward the ticket counter, Maya calculated her new reality. No gas money meant walking to work for the next 3 days, but seeing the relief flood across that father's face made the sacrifice feel right, even if it made her life harder. The next few days were brutal. Maya walked 2 hours each way to Save Mart, surviving on the few groceries she had left and declining when co-workers offered to buy her lunch. When her supervisor noticed her exhaustion, Maya just said she was dealing with some personal issues but would be fine. On Friday afternoon, as Maya was finishing her shift at the customer service desk, her manager approached with a confused expression. "Maya, there's someone here asking for you specifically. Says he met you earlier this week. He's been waiting in the parking lot for your shift to end." Puzzled, Maya clocked out and walked outside, where she was surprised to see the elderly man from the train station standing beside a luxury sedan. He looked much better now, rested and wearing a genuine smile. "I hope you don't mind me tracking you down," he said, extending his hand. "I called around the Save Mart locations near Union Station until someone confirmed your name and shift." "How did your daughter's surgery go?" Maya asked immediately. "Is she okay?" "Thanks to you, I made it to the hospital with time to spare. Sarah's recovery is going beautifully." His smile faded slightly as he studied Maya's face. "But I'm here because I need to properly introduce myself and make something right." He handed her a business card. "I'm Robert Harrison, founder and CEO of Harrison Medical Group." Maya looked at the card, recognizing the name immediately. Harrison Medical Group owned Chicago General Hospital, the same place where her mother had received treatment, the same institution that was currently drowning her family in debt. "You probably don't know me personally," Robert continued, "but I suspect you know my hospitals. And after what you did for me this week, I did some research into your situation." Maya felt a familiar knot of anxiety form in her stomach. "My situation?" "Maya, you gave me your last $10 to help a complete stranger, then convinced others to help too. But what really struck me was learning that you work full-time to make payments on medical bills from one of my own hospitals. Bills that have grown larger despite your faithful payments." Robert's expression grew serious. "I looked into your mother's account. Maya, your family was charged interest rates and fees that are unconscionable. You've paid over $8,000 toward a $15,000 bill. But with the way compounding interest and late fees piled up, every payment only chipped at the charges while the balance ballooned to $18,000. Maya's cheeks burned with embarrassment. "The payment plan was voluntary. I knew the terms when I signed." "No," Robert said firmly. "Those terms were predatory. Maya, you've been working 80 hours a week at minimum wage, sending most of your paycheck to my hospital, while barely able to afford gas to get to work. Meanwhile, my company has been profiting from your family's medical crisis." He pulled out an envelope from his briefcase. "First, this is a check that covers your mother's remaining balance in full. The debt is erased completely." Maya stared at the check, unable to process the amount. "Mr. Harrison, I can't accept this. It's too much." "It's not charity," Robert said gently. "It's making things right. But Maya, I have a proposition for you. Your sacrifice at the train station opened my eyes to something I should have seen years ago. If I want to change how my hospitals treat families, I need someone who's lived that struggle. Someone like you." Robert's voice grew thoughtful. I want to offer you a position as patient family liaison at Chicago General Hospital. We need someone who understands what families go through, someone who can help us pilot a fairer billing program. The salary is $45,000 a year with full benefits. Maya felt tears welling in her eyes. Mr. Harrison, I'm just a grocery store cashier. I don't have experience with— You have something more valuable than experience, Robert interrupted. You have heart, you understand struggle, and you still found a way to help a stranger. That's exactly what we need. Maya's hands shook as she looked at the offer letter. What would I be doing? Working with families who are facing what you faced, helping them navigate payment options, connecting them with resources, and making sure they're treated with dignity instead of just being handed impossible payment plans. Maya thought about all the nights she'd stayed awake worrying about medical bills, all the collection calls, all the shame of not being able to pay despite working so hard. If I could help other families avoid that— That's exactly what we're hoping, Robert said. Change doesn't happen overnight, Maya, but it starts with people like you who understand both the problem and the human cost. 1 year later, Maya sat in her small office at Chicago General Hospital. The year had been full of challenges and victories, and she had grown into her new role with a mixture of pride and perseverance. Now she was reviewing a case file that made her heart ache with familiarity. A young mother named Elena Rodriguez had brought her 8-year-old son to the emergency room with appendicitis. The surgery had been successful, but the $12,000 bill was threatening to destroy the single mother's financial stability. Maya had spent the past year working with families in similar situations, gradually building trust within the hospital system and slowly implementing changes. The pilot program she'd helped develop had already modified payment plans for dozens of families, eliminating predatory interest rates and creating more manageable options for working families. The work hadn't been easy. Maya had faced resistance from some billing staff who were used to the old system, skepticism from administrators worried about lost revenue, and heartbreak from families who had already been crushed by medical debt before the new programs could help them. There were nights she went home exhausted, wondering if the changes were happening fast enough to matter. But there were victories too. Last month, she'd helped a construction worker negotiate a payment plan that wouldn't force him to choose between his daughter's asthma medication and keeping the lights on. 2 weeks ago, she'd connected an elderly man with a charity that covered his heart surgery costs entirely. Each success reminded Maya why she'd taken this job, even when the bureaucracy felt overwhelming. Her mother had become one of her biggest supporters, often telling Maya how proud she was that her daughter had found a way to help other families avoid what they'd gone through. You turned our pain into purpose, Lynn would say in her improving English. That's how we honor the struggle. Maya kept a photo on her desk from her brother Tommy's recent visit home. The whole family together, her mother healthy and smiling, no longer haunted by the worry that had aged her during the worst of their financial crisis. Tommy had been amazed by the changes in their mother's demeanor, how she laughed again, how she'd started cooking elaborate Vietnamese meals to celebrate small family victories. It wasn't the sweeping, overnight transformation she'd sometimes dreamed of, but it was real progress. Each family helped, each policy adjustment, each training session with billing staff. They were all steps toward the kind of healthcare system that treated people with dignity. Maya knocked gently on the door of Elena's hospital room. The young woman looked up with tired, worried eyes that Maya recognized all too well. Mrs. Rodriguez? I'm Maya Wynn, patient family liaison. I understand you have some concerns about the billing situation. Elena's shoulders sagged with relief at Maya's gentle tone. I don't know what I'm going to do. I work 2 jobs, but this bill, it's more than I make in 6 months. They want me to sign up for a payment plan, but the interest rate they're offering will mean I'll be paying for years. I don't know how to keep food on the table if I sign that. Maya sat down beside Elena's chair, remembering her own mother in a similar hospital bed, remembering her own panic about impossible bills. Mrs. Rodriguez, you don't have to face this alone. We have options now that might help. Maya walked Elena through the new fair payment program she'd helped design. Zero interest for families earning under $40,000, payment plans based on to pay, and most importantly, a process that treated families like people, not account numbers. Are you serious? Elena asked, tears streaming down her face. I can actually afford this? Yes, Maya said softly. And if circumstances change and you run into trouble making payments, we'll work with you to adjust the plan. No more collection calls, no more punitive fees. We're here to help you heal, not to make your life harder. As Elena signed the new payment agreement, one that would let her keep her apartment and feed her family while still addressing the medical bill, she looked up at Maya with gratitude. How do you know exactly what to say? It's like you understand what I'm going through. Maya smiled, thinking of a rainy night at Union Station when she'd given away her last $10 to help a stranger get to his daughter. Because I've been where you are, and someone helped me when I needed it most. Walking back to her office, Maya reflected on the journey from that desperate moment at the train station to this fulfilling work. The changes at Chicago General were happening gradually, one family at a time, one policy adjustment at a time, one conversation at a time. But each small victory represented a family that wouldn't have to choose between medical care and financial survival. Robert Harrison often stopped by to check on the program's progress, and he never failed to remind Maya that her act of kindness had started something important. Maya, he'd said just last week, you gave me $10 and showed me what compassion looks like. Now look what you're building, a healthcare system that actually cares about the families it serves. As Maya prepared to head home to her mother, who was now in remission and whose medical bills were finally behind them, she thought about Elena and the dozens of other families she'd been able to help this year. Each one reminded her that sometimes the most important thing you can do is help when you have the least to give, because that's when your help means the most to someone who desperately needs it. And it all began with the choice to give away her last $10. The ripple effect of one small act of kindness was still spreading, one family at a time. And that night at Union Station became the spark for everything that followed. Maya's story reminds us that true generosity isn't measured by what we give, but by what we sacrifice to give it. When someone gives their last dollar to help a stranger, they're demonstrating the kind of humanity that can inspire systemic change. Sometimes one small act of kindness doesn't just change individual lives, it transforms entire institutions and creates lasting impact for countless others. If this story inspired you to look for ways to help others, even when you're struggling yourself, please like, subscribe, and join us for more soulful stories that celebrate the extraordinary power of ordinary compassion.